Exciting day on today's show. We've got the new USA Today coaches poll. Came out today, top 25 rankings by the coaches. Very interesting. I haven't really looked at it yet, so we're going to kind of go through this together. But let me pull it up here, and we will take a peek at what the coaches ranked the top 25 college football teams. So I think there's no surprise here. Georgia's number one. The national championships. As you look here, the first votes, it looks like they got 61. Interesting that Alabama and Ohio State get some votes. I always feel it's weird. I feel like there are some teams out there, some coaches out there that they always vote Alabama number one preseason, like that's just their thing, or they vote Ohio State. Hey, maybe this is Ryan Day. I don't know. They don't say exactly who, but it's a pool of coaches who are willing to participate. I'm sure some of those coaches probably don't participate, but I think it's interesting that Alabama and Ohio State get some, whereas Michigan doesn't get any, but Michigan is still ranked number two without any first place votes. Kind of interesting there. I don't think anybody's having any arguments here about this first four. Georgia, back-to-back national titles, can't argue with that. Michigan is coming back loaded team. Alabama is always good, always going to get these high rankings. They have the best recruiting classes, up there with Georgia every single year. So if that's the case, they are going to have the best players and probably the best teams year in and year out, at least on paper, which is what we're looking at right now. It's just on paper. So you look at recruiting classes, they've been incredible. The same with Ohio State. Their recruiting is off the charts. They probably have the best wide receiver group of any of these teams. So, they'll be good. Now, they lose CJ Stroud, so how do they reload at quarterback will be very interesting. Very interesting to see how Ohio State reloads at quarterback. You never know. He's a top-rated guy, but you never know how they're going to turn out, right? LSU, I think that's the first kind of interesting one to me that doesn't quite seem right. Just because, they had some really bad losses last year. I think this is the Brian Kelly effect. They've loaded up on defense in the transfer portal. I think that is why they're getting ranked by the coaches so highly. Is, hey, Brian Kelly, second year, gonna be a huge deal, right? They're gonna pop off. They had success last year, right? They beat Alabama. They really took a leap, but they also had some really bad moments. And I think the idea is, hey, second year under a new head coach, they'll clean up those really sloppy games, those really sloppy moments where they lose, on some special teams or some weird plays. I think they will be better. I don't know if I would put them 5. I think that's a little high, but all right. USC, number 6. No surprise there. I think really what I would do is probably move USC and Penn State above LSU if it was my list. USC, Caleb Williams, everybody's talking about him. I'd make an argument that, you could maybe put USC above Ohio State, but I'm fine. Ohio State's going to be good. They reload all the time. But USC, with Caleb Williams, the front runner for the Heisman, some people saying he's the best quarterback prospect ever for the NFL, right? There's discussion in the NFL of what are they going to do if teams start tanking for Caleb. And so definitely deserving of those high spots. Penn State, I think, is the sleeper that nobody's really thinking about in like the general public, but everybody inside of college football is talking about Penn State this year. And what they're going to do with new offensive coordinator and new system and new quarterback. I think it's going to be interesting. They're probably the team, them and Florida State here, The reason they're there is because there's a lot of people around the league that think these two are going to have just a ridiculous season, that they are going to pop off, that they might be the two of the best teams in college football. Because of their growth, their trajectory is looking really good. I mean, Penn State only lost to, I believe, Ohio State and Michigan last year, right? The only two teams they lost to are these two. Now, what's going to happen this year? Can they, overcome that hump? I believe Ohio. I think Michigan plays at Penn State this year. I'll have to, you'll have to correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but I know Penn State does get at least one of those games at home, which could help. That whiteout environment definitely going to be playing better, and new quarterback. I think it could be interesting. And then to round out the top 10, we got Clemson and Tennessee. Cade Klubnik right there at Clemson. A lot of people were clamoring for him to be the starter over DJ, and didn't have the best bowl game, but next year in the system, another year older, another year in the weight room, another year seeing the speed of the college game, I think could make a big improvement. Tennessee, had quite the year last year. Kind of a Cinderella year last year that then didn't end so well, but kind of bounced back in that bowl game. And so that's another top 10. I think I'm okay with this top 10 overall. Again, I think LSU is probably a little too high. I would maybe move them below USC, maybe even below Penn State. Just because, I don't know. I got a weird feeling about LSU. Like, can they capture that kind of magic? Can they become more disciplined as far as winning some of the more easy games, so to speak? I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. The three teams of LSU, Penn State, and Florida State, these are kind of your popular picks right now as far as, these are the teams that are going to have a big year. And I don't know. In my experience, I think watching college football, there's always a few teams that are the ones that everybody thinks are prone to take a big leap, but maybe don't. And so I don't know. I think I would put LSU below USC. USC is more of a known quantity. And I think with Caleb Williams, a lot of people would put them above. And it hurts me to say that as a Notre Dame fan. I don't like giving USC any credit. I don't like USC, but I think they do, have a great roster and a great quarterback, and they probably deserve to be in the top 5. It would be very surprising to me, or I think it would be very disappointing if USC does not end up, battling for one of those playoff spots at the end of the year. If they don't win the Pac-12 or they don't, have a nice push there, it's going to be a disappointing season. Now, that's where Washington comes in at spot number 11. I think a dangerous team there, and we'll see what happens. Another one of those Pac-12 teams. What's interesting, as we were talking earlier this week, or last week, I guess, about the conference realignment, look at what the Big Ten is going to be. I mean, Washington, Penn State, USC, Ohio State, Michigan. That's a super conference. We're talking about half of the top 11, all right? Half of the top 11 teams in the Big Ten. We talk about the super conference of the SEC. Everybody likes to talk about them being the best conference. Get to next year when a bunch of these teams move over, I think you're going to have to be finally saying, yeah, the Big Ten's better. Nice to see Florida State here and Clemson here for the ACC, them getting some recognition. So that's good. Now, come outside of the top 11 here, we got Texas, Notre Dame, Utah, Oregon, TCU. This group here, I think, is what you would call them, a group, in that, Notre Dame adds a big transfer quarterback, huge improvement over, what they've had for the past few years, and they've had a good roster. Some questions. Obviously, losing Michael Mayer, the tight end, who was a huge part of their offense. Losing Tommy Reese, their offensive coordinator. Some big questions there. Texas, I mean, Texas has the same kind of situation where it is every year we wonder, is Texas back? And they just haven't quite been back yet. Young quarterback Ewers comes on last year, has, quite the start, gets hurt. They lose some close games. There's some, turmoil. Can Sark really get them over the hump? Don't know. We'll see. Utah, it comes down to their quarterback. Their roster feels pretty good. Their coach is fantastic. But, we're bringing back Cam Rising again. Feels like he's been there for the past 10 years. But he's coming back, coming off of a pretty gnarly injury, though. So will he be the same player? Will he, be ready to go this season? We'll see. Oregon, another, here's your three old quarterbacks. Been around for a little bit, right? With Bo Nix coming back again for another season. Those COVID years, that COVID year really, really gave some opportunity for some of these guys to play a lot in college. And you know what? If you're a college quarterback, like a Bo Nix or a Cam Rising, who's probably not, at the top of anybody's list for NFL, well, you got NIL right now. You can actually make some money playing football. So might as well stay in college, right? Which I think is the underrated aspect of the NIL, is you're going to have some of these kind of career college quarterbacks where they're making some money while playing college quarterback, and maybe they stay an extra year or two, finish up that degree, and get paid to do it. Kind of a cool gig. And then TCU, again, this is kind of this middle 12 through 16 group, I think. You might be able to actually put Washington or maybe even Tennessee in it, because Tennessee, new quarterback needing to come in, and how's that going to work? So this kind of set, 10 through 16, I think are the teams that we think they're going to be good. Either they added some pieces, like a Notre Dame, where, okay, their quarterback's definitely better. They have some veteran guys coming back, like a Bo Nix or a Cam Rising. They had sparks last year, right? Like a Tennessee and a Washington had these moments where you go, that could be really good. But Tennessee's got some questions with a new quarterback situation. Washington probably feels like the most stable of this group, as far as we kind of, I think, know what they're going to be. Have a great receiving core. And then you've got TCU, magical season last year, but also lost a lot of pieces, including their offensive coordinator. I think this is the group of teams to keep your eye on, as far as there's going to be one or two of these teams that's really going to pop, I think. I think this is where you're going to find one of this group is going to be in the playoff, I think. I think this is the group of teams where somebody is going to do something that we don't expect them to do. Maybe TCU, they're coming in with, a completely different looking team, basically, because of how many people they lost and a new offensive coordinator. Is this, another Cinderella year? We'll see. Oregon, Utah. Oregon, does Bo Nix really come out of his shell this year, as far as really coming into just being that experienced, savvy quarterback? Can that just elevate the team? Does a Washington, does a Tennessee reload and capture some elegance? Is Texas finally back? Notre Dame, they finally have a quarterback. Can they do something? I think one of these teams, 10 through 16, is gonna get in the playoff. Keep your eye on these 6 teams. Well, 7, I guess. 7 teams. One of them, I think, is going to be in the playoff at the end of the year. or definitely one or two of them are going to be in the running for the playoff at the end of the year. We'll see. It's going to be exciting. Then we kind of get this bottom group of teams. And, I don't know if there's any surprises here. When you're dealing with a preseason poll, you kind of just lump a bunch of kind of regulars in here at the bottom, I think. Kansas State. I don't know if there's anything super exciting about them necessarily, but they typically be good. I think Oregon State's the one team in this kind of batch to really keep an eye on, as well as maybe a Texas A&M and an Oklahoma. Oklahoma, you got coaching situation there, and a lot of pressure to perform at a school that was a kind of a perennial playoff contender under Lincoln Riley. He leaves for USC, and they do not have a great year, so important season, I think, for Oklahoma. You've got North Carolina here. Quarterback in Drake May. People are putting up there with Caleb Williams, saying, these two are the quarterbacks to keep an eye on. So interesting, but I don't know if they got the firepower to do it, top to bottom. Could be interesting. And then, Texas Tech had a good season last year. Kind of, a positive trajectory for the program. Tulane, one of those non-Power 5 teams that looks like they could do something this year. They've had a good year last year. Ole Miss, you kind of put them in here. Again, like I said, I think this group, kind of 17 through 25, it's a lot of kind of your regulars. Well, Texas A&M recruits so well, they probably deserve to be in the top 25. They've got some of the best athletes on the field in basically every game they get play. Texas Tech, you reward some, last year success. Texas Tech had a good year last year. Let's put them in. Tulane, good year. Mississippi, again, good SEC team. I don't know if there's anything specific to talk about. Same with Wisconsin. They're typically good. They're reloading. They're gonna be good every year, pretty much. North Carolina, Drake May, Mac Brown at the coach. I think North Carolina, out of this group, I'm keeping my eyes on North Carolina, Oregon State, and Oklahoma. These three as teams that could surprise some people. Oregon State last year had a very quietly impressive season, right? A lot of people didn't talk about them, but they were good last year, and they got better as the year went on. So keeping my eye on them. Oklahoma, I'm watching not necessarily because I think they're going to be great, but because I think this is a very important season for them to get back to, their previous form and what we expect Oklahoma to be. And then North Carolina, because Drake May is such a prolific quarterback, there's so many eyes on him now this year. Interested to see how he'll do. So I think those are your three most interesting teams. As far as teams that from this bunch that could really make a push, I think you got to put Texas A&M in that list because, I mean, they recruit like crazy. Can Jimbo get back to a national championship winning team? We'll see. But I think they're probably the safest bet if you were going to take a bet on one of these teams to be very good this year, just because of their recruiting. But I think these are the three most interesting of this group. That pretty much sums up my thoughts. I think, again, the most interesting teams this year, as far as what I'm most curious about, I know what Georgia's going to be. I'm pretty sure I know what Michigan, Alabama, Ohio State, the top here, I'm pretty sure I know what they are. I think the most interesting teams to watch are going to be Penn State, USC. I think Texas and Notre Dame, probably. I would put Clemson in this group as well because they got a new offensive coordinator. Interested to see what that's going to look like. And then down here, I'm most interested in these three teams as I discussed before. Now, I know I said at the beginning that I didn't know, what coaches. they do have the list of coaches down here, and I did a little search for Ryan Day, and yep, he was one of the coaches. So I'm a bit of a betting man, and I bet he put Ohio State as number one. Why not, right? Put your own team number one. That seems like a very Ryan Day thing to do. So I just thought that was funny. Ohio State gets one vote as number one. And, oh, look, yes, Ryan Day was one of the voters. So I don't know. I feel like that's probably what happened there. So, yeah, if you're curious, this article or this list, it's not really an article, this list of the top 25 teams rated by the coaches just came out yesterday. Go ahead, check it, click it on the description. Let me know what you think in the comments. What team are you most interested in seeing this year? What team do you think could maybe take the biggest leap? As always, if you enjoyed today's video, please consider subscribing so that you don't miss any of the content. Leave a like, leave a comment, and we'll see you in the next one.